And good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of Cape and Today. Today, we are live at Maritime Gloucester down on Harbor Loop in beautiful and historic downtown Gloucester. I'm your host, Kory Curcuru. Heather Atwood is away on assignment. But joining me to help out today is the Executive Director of Maritime Gloucester, Michael Koster. How are you, Mike?
How you doing, Kory?
Thanks for doing this for us.
Thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate you guys coming down here today.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now.
Yes.
We wanted to spend some time down here and get to learn all things Maritime Gloucester. You've set up a great guest list for us today. But I guess from the top, Michael, can you give folks who, I guess locals, who have either driven by or heard about Maritime Gloucester but haven't stepped foot in, just what is Maritime Gloucester?
The best kept secret in Gloucester. That's what it is, actually. For locals who haven't been here in a while, definitely have to come back. Over the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've been really transforming the campus experience here. We are a maritime nonprofit. We used to be called the Gloucester Maritime Heritage Center. And we kind of kept those roots. We want to really make sure that we're telling the story of Gloucester's maritime heritage, cultural heritage, and obviously the fishing community as well. But several years ago, actually 20 years ago, we started to offer science programs for the young people in Gloucester, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And that has really transformed our campus. We've invested in like an aquarium. We now have a new Maritime Science Education Center downstairs. 1 year in, we just opened that up, which is great.
Yeah.
And the experience here is really kind of visitor focused. We want to make sure that everyone gets a good understanding of that mission, of our core values. We try to inspire discovery, we embrace history, we explore science, and we teach living sustainability. So all of those things into a great one-day package. It's a must-see in Gloucester.
Right, now let's talk about like the campus itself,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so what are the components of the campus? We know we have the Harriet Webster Pier.
Beautiful pier, beautiful pier with 3 of Gloucester's 4 schooners on our pier. Great access to the harbor, wonderful trips to take. We have an old mill building, which is one of the most historic buildings on the campus, houses the Marine Railway engine, and we have America's oldest marine railway on our campus. We built the campus around that. The Dory Shop, our museum, Sea Pocket Aquarium, the Maritime Science Education Center, our marine classroom, and an ice house and kind of multimodal. Sometimes it's a boat shop, sometimes it's a classroom, sometimes it's a stage for events. So it's a great, great location. All sorts of fun experiences to see, all different sheds on the campus as well. Something for everyone to see.
Yeah, right. And a great gift shop too, I should mention.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. One of the better maritime gift shops in town, which is not hard to say. But
But you do have like all things local down there too.
We do. Wonderful, wonderful branded items, but also just excellent for books, kids. We have more stuffed animals than probably than we should, but they fly off the shelves. That's great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're looking forward to, I mean, you got to be looking forward to a big spring and summer here, right?
Yes. Starting next week on May 9th, I think, and May 10th, we have a full month of all of the kids in Gloucester are coming for our programming. In fact, we have so many kids here every day that we are closed during the week because we can't do that and have public experience. The kids' science programs come to the fore. It's called Ocean Explorers. We have a wonderful group of people that run that program. And every single day, we have, like I said, somewhere between 16 to 90 kids coming and getting marine science education with us. It's our signature program. It's a wonderful thing.
That's amazing. All right, well, let's learn more
about that, yeah.
Okay, so joining us first is Kelsey Bradford. She is the Director of Marine Education here at Maritime Gloucester. Good morning, Kelsey.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Yeah. So I guess off the top, Kelsey, just define your role and what you do here.
So my main role is, like he said, to be the Director of Education here. So I take on a lot of school groups. We teach them about marine science, all localized. And so we visit the schools sometimes. Sometimes the kids come to us. And we're very excited for another busy spring field trip season. Like Michael was saying, every day from May 6th until June 10th, we'll have kids on site learning local marine science. Especially with our core Ocean Explorers program, they really tie into the state standards for the science curriculum that the teachers need to teach anyway. So just localize it, make it marine science, make it hands-on and fun. And so part of my job is to bring that education to the kids, try to inspire them to love their local ocean. And I also enjoy working with the public as well to kind of show off our hometown here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kelsey, not everyone may know like a couple things about Ocean Explorers, although we've been doing it for 20 years. How did it start in 2004? Why did a marine or maritime entity start doing marine science?
Yeah.
And then what are like the age groups and such that we deal with? Yeah.
So back in 2004, the public schools in Gloucester had decided that due to budget reasons, they needed to cut back a lot on science, especially in elementary schools. So our board was like, I don't think that should be the case. So then we stepped in, started the Ocean Explorers program. So then we brought marine science to the classroom, and being a maritime heritage entity, it made sense that we did it more marine focused. And then that expanded to us opening up the aquarium here so we could have some live animals on site so the kids could get a hands-on experience. It has now exploded and blossomed into, what do we have, like 30 different modules, 30 different
32,
lessons that we
yeah.
do throughout the year with these kids. And we're always tailoring it to the different age groups. So this program in particular focuses on 3rd through 5th grade. But we teach everyone here from preschool all the way through college and beyond too. So.
And those modules too, you know, it's important to note that they're customized for each visit, right? We don't. It's not like every third grader that comes gets this module. Sometimes if they're coming in the spring, they're getting. We try to relate to what the teacher's teaching at the time because it's all about STEM, and we try to make that impactful so that it's not like the students coming and they're learning about something and then for a day they do something else with us and then they go back to learning. We try to blend what our modules are, right? I mean, yeah, and that customization has made this a pretty strong program, wouldn't you say?
Right, because again, it started as a need, but now science is luckily back in the schools, but now it's more of a want, and so this program has still continued even past the point of us needing to be there, but now the teachers really seem to enjoy us being there and think that we add to the kids' experience in learning science at school.
And what are you finding, Kelsey, that certain age groups are gravitate towards certain aspects of Maritime Gloucester?
I would certainly say so. I think especially for the younger kids, it's great to get their hands wet in the touch tanks, to feel some lobsters and crabs and get more familiar with the animals that they might find down at the beach. As they get older, we take them aboard the Schooner Ardell too, so they learn how to raise sails, how to work the sailboat a little bit too, and we look at navigational charts, so they learn how to use a compass and look at different landmarks around town. So again, as the kids get older, we try to build on what they've learned as 3rd graders. We start with the base of the food chain as plankton under microscopes and bring it back in 4th grade talking about food chains, and then 5th grade about human impacts on these ecosystems. So we hope that it really all ties together once they're done with this program.
Think about it, you're a kid in school and then one day you come to Maritime Gloucester and you're doing a plankton tow, you're taking up marine debris and sorting it out and learning about different types of marine debris, and then you're going on the Ardell for a science at sea type thing and doing water quality testing maybe or something.
Like how lucky are these kids?
How lucky are these kids to be able to do that,
Cool.
right? Kelsey, you know, again, 20-year history. I did the math quickly in my head, but that's like 12,000 students. It's starting to get like generational. We're starting to see kids that are you know, their parents were coming to the program.
Absolutely.
Which leads me to how did you get started in the program? How long have you been here?
Yeah, so I remember as an elementary and middle school student coming here on field trips, dissecting squid, looking at the plankton, and then as a high school student, I started as an intern here in the aquarium when I was 15, and now I just turned 30, so I just figured out half my life I've spent at Maritime Gloucester doing many different things. I just love it so much. Just the connection to the community and the local ecosystems. Always been an animal nerd, so it's fun to share that knowledge.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so what lured you? Were you always just, you know, you loved the beach as a kid, or what were you fascinated by that led you sort of down this path?
Yeah, I think I always knew I wanted to work with nature and animals in some capacity. I wanted forever to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. That would always be my answer. I got the opportunity to shadow a vet as a high school student and was like, maybe that's not my thing. But I always still knew I loved working with nature and animals. So then I went to UMass Amherst for natural resource conservation and education, and it just made perfect sense to come right back
We
here.
let her leave just long enough to get a degree.
Yeah.
And come right back.
Right back.
But yeah, I have really enjoyed my journey here. And again, working with a lot of local animals is very exciting, and teaching people about them. And yeah.
So can't emphasize enough, right? I mean, the opportunity of coming in as an intern, right? Or actually starting like as a student,
right.
visitor,
Yep.
coming in as an intern, and then you staying. And what's your job title now?
Director of Marine Education.
Yeah.
So it's
So she's gone the full like
circle.
educator route, and then all the way up to director level here. So I mean, she's one of the shining stars, obviously.
Yeah.
I had to put that in, Kelsey. Otherwise, yeah. So we have the Ocean Explorers program. Give us just pick a grade or fourth grader. They come in. What are they going to do that day?
Sure. So it all depends, again, if we're going in school or on site, but we're excited to have the fourth graders coming on site this spring. So they'll be doing a lesson called the Crab Lab, which we look at marine invasive species, and we talk about the European green crabs, which some of you may know about. If not, you've definitely seen them before. So we compare and contrast the invasives with our native Jonah crabs, talk about human impacts and the impacts of these invasive species. And then we also do another lesson about classification. So we talk about how scientists classify things into different groups. We have an amazing collection of specimens downstairs, both living and non-living. So shells of different creatures and live animals, have the kids categorize them, and then they'll get to sail aboard the schooner Ardell, weather permitting. So it's a fun, exciting day for the kids, and they always seem to look forward to it.
Yeah, and even then, they're out on the dock and they're looking at different types of seaweed or shells and
Right.
trying to identify those things too.
Talk about the value then of our programming versus our formal classroom programming, because we do this experiential learning, and what's that impact for a kid when they're coming to a program like Maritime Gloucester's?
Yeah, I think the whole idea of being place-based learning here is really important too. Many of the kids live, especially downtown, or they've definitely been downtown or to the local beaches. So to get that place-based experience here is, I think, really valuable and important. And then when we visit their classrooms, just being able to hold a crab or, look at plankton under a microscope is maybe some experiences that they've done before but haven't really been as thoughtful or as informative of what they're doing. And then they go out in the world and they might show their cousin visiting from Kansas who's never been to the ocean before, a little bit about their local ecosystem.
Or their mother and father who's never been to the harbor here and before. It's amazing.
Right.
Sometimes you hear these kids
Yeah.
like they don't even go out on the vessels or
Yep.
even some of them like we had one kid years ago, one of my first years here, and he was talking, and all of a sudden he's like, that picture's my grandfather in this room. That picture's my grandfather, and they're like, oh geez, let's talk about that. And he was like, I never, we just got away from fishing. We didn't go out on the harbor. We didn't do anything. And to learn and have that experience of that kid being able to get out there and do this, it's kind of transformational.
Yeah.
All of these educational programming within a cultural, sense of place is so important. If we have a minute, let's chat about like this summer. What sort of programs are we offering for kids to come from the community and come see?
Right. So so far we've talked about Ocean Explorers, which is our more formal education program. But this summer we do offer little drop-in programs for people, again, of all ages. So we do our Creature of the Week, where we focus on a certain creature from our touch tank, do a lot of fun facts about them, and a take-home craft for the kids to take home. We have our plankton safari, so we get a chance to do a plankton tow and look at them under the microscope.
That's what I've seen, yeah.
Yeah, teach the general public about that. And then for a couple weeks this year, we have our week-long summer program, the Coastal Explorers. And those are, at this point, I think, totally booked up for both weeks in July and August. But it's been a couple days on shore here, 3 days out on the schooner Ardell, going to different places around the North Shore, and hopping off the boat and checking out Manchester or Thatcher's Island or Misery Island. So we got a lot of stuff planned.
Great programming. We could talk for an hour on our educational programs alone. Really.
We're going to.
And we are going to. But I mean, just the science programs that we do.
Yeah.
If I could just clarify one thing, what are the age groups? Because, here's the thing. The parents come for these pop-in programs,
Yeah.
and then they want to do it. So what are the age groups for our pop-in program?
It is fun for all ages, but usually the drop-in programs like Creature of the Week is geared for like 3-year-olds to maybe 7, and then the Plankton Safari, where we're using kind of expensive microscope equipment, is usually for like 7 to 12. But I've had adults stay for the entire thing too that didn't come with kids, and they were just like, wow, this is fascinating.
Not encouraged.
No, I noticed that too, though.
Well,
Sometimes encouraged, sometimes required, actually.
there you go.
Yeah.
And our Coastal Explorers program is for ages 8 to 12. So
So come on down and check out the Science Center. It's
Yeah.
available all the time, year round. Let your kids, get your hands wet, touch some animals, learn from our educators, and talk to your kids about the programs
yeah,
that we're
we have some
offering.
amazing interns too.
It's always such
this
an
year.
amazing thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Kelsey, I want to ask you too, lastly, is why do you love what you do so much? Because it's apparent.
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it does stem back from my just animal nerdness and just loving being able to educate people. And my passion comes from, caring about the environment. And if you don't know about it, then why would you care about it? So that's part of my main job here, is to educate and inform people so that way they can take that with them and care a little bit. Yeah.
And what would you say to a parent or a resident here who's thought about, enrolling in a kid or visiting the museum at some point? Like, what would you tell them to sort of nudge them into the door here?
Ooh. I would say every day here is a different experience. We have a lot of family members that come weekly, if not a couple times a week, and every time they have a new experience, they see new animals. We're always getting new things. Could be feeding time. So there's always something exciting going on here. And it's just a great way to get your hands wet, learn about the local ecosystems, and have fun while you're doing it.
Very cool. Well, we appreciate your time, Kelsey,
you
so
and your
much.
work down here too. Come down and see Kelsey this summer. She'll be here helping out. She has been for 15 years now. So and a
not
new
going
mom.
anywhere
We
anytime
want to say
soon.
new mom.
I am a new mom.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so
you
I'm
go.
excited for
The
my little
next
guy to
generation,
be
see.
the next ocean
Yeah,
explorer.
exactly.
Yeah.
We've said we might put them in floaties and put them in the
Yeah.
tank. No, we won't do that.
All right, folks, that's
Thanks
Kelsey
so much.
Bradford.
Thank
She
you.
is the Director of Marine Education here at Maritime Gloucester. We'll be back with more from Harbor Loop right after this. And we are back at Maritime Gloucester for Cape Ann today as we continue to learn all things Maritime Gloucester here at Harbor Loop. Right, Michael?
So many things happening here.
Yeah.
Filling a full hour.
Well, Kelsey was amazing. Now the pressure is
good.
on our
It is.
next guest, and we learn a little bit more about another program here, the Maritime Apprenticeship Program.
Yes.
So joining us are Tucker Smith and Harold Burnham and Jess Edminger. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Hey guys.
And I guess right off the top, Michael, why don't you sort of give us a topical on what is the Maritime Apprenticeship Program, and then we'll fold Harold in to get a little more detailed about things.
Great. Yeah, Maritime Apprenticeship Program is one of our signature programs. We run a lot of different programs, but we have mainly two educational programs, the Ocean Explorers and the Apprenticeship Program. It's a partnership that we've done with Maritime Heritage Charters, and it's been working out great for like 3 years. It's a concept that Harold has brought to the table, came up with, is one of the lead educators, along with our own Amanda Madera, who has been working with him for so many years. We're training young kids through an actual apprenticeship program. It's not just classroom training. We're putting them out on the water. We're putting them in job placement positions, and they are learning how to run boats, be on boats, navigate, captain, all the way up. I don't want to steal all of the conversation. I want to actually pass it to Harold. On a quick note, what's the kind of format? How many times do you meet? What sort of programs do you offer?
Well, the real format is it's a real apprenticeship program. Apprenticeship programs go way back in the world, and where apprentice worked for a master, and then through enough abuse turned into a master themselves, and carrying heavy things and all the like. But they learned through the work. So one of the main parts of our apprentice program is, in order to be in it, you have to work on a commercial vessel. And we had several apprentices that worked on whale watch boats, worked on the Fame out of Salem and other boats in Gloucester, and the Ardell. And the idea is that unfortunately the way the licensure works is the Coast Guard wants to see people get sea time in order to get their licenses to be captain on a boat. But sea time does not equate to training.
Right.
A good owner wants to see their captains landing the boats at the dock and taking all responsibility and doing everything themselves. So there's very little impetus for a deckhand particularly, or any person on a boat, to ever get a chance to get on the controls and actually handle the boat. And we have had many people work for us over the years, and what we wanted to do is give the apprentices a chance to actually handle the boat. And what we found is, instead of offering them, I've always offered any person that worked for me to handle the boat. I'm very comfortable at it. But instead of offering them that chance, we make them do it. And so the major thing is through the work. And then to kind of highlight that, Maritime Gloucester, and Michael in particular, asked about what we could do that would help young mariners really become licensed officers. And so we started this program, and Amanda Madeira, who's fabulous, has jumped in, and she's been doing sail training forever. And she and I get together with these future captains and mates, and every 2 weeks we have a formal meeting where we do something ridiculous, like tear an engine down, or maintain something that's broken. Or we try to start with the work, what the apprentices have seen in their past 2 weeks of experience on the water. People have had things like steering brake and other things go on, and we learn from those experiences, or some maritime incident that happened, and how we can learn, and how Amanda and I have seen it in our time, and how we fix these things or handle these situations. So
one of the fun things every summer, they're crewing on the Ardell now, and Harold does make them take the boat off the vessel, off the dock, and onto the dock, whether they're ready or not.
Yeah.
And what do you always say to the passengers?
Oh yeah, we tell all the passengers that it's harder than it looks to bring a boat into a dock. But the boat is the toughest thing around. They're going to be safe. We very much stress passenger safety over
course.
everything, and also passenger comfort. So what we tell the passengers is that it's way harder than it looks, and when we get in, we'll either give the apprentice a huge round of applause or a paintbrush to fix whatever they've done.
It's working with in a training program with a boat builder is great, because if something happens, just fix it.
Yeah,
That's
right.
a learning experience. That's part of the experience, right? So we
Let's
run.
hear from them.
Yeah, let's hear from them. I was just gonna say we run somewhere between 9 and 13 people in this program over the last 3 years, and we have 2 of them with us right here, which is great. Smile. How you doing? Jess, what brought you to the program? What were you thinking about when you heard about it, and why did you get involved?
So I met my husband. He wasn't my husband at the time, and he's got a big background in Mariner,
Yeah.
and I just didn't know enough, and he has a friendship sloop that I've become part of and taken care of and refurbishing and sailing, and I wanted to learn more. So that's what brought me to the program. It brought me to working on the Ardell and meeting Harold, and it's been a lot of fun. It's nothing else like anything I've ever done.
Yeah. You took a little break for a while. What happened?
Oh, I had a baby.
Another baby.
Yeah.
And so you just want some general understanding, some recreational. But are you going straight for your license, or?
I would like to get a license.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the whole point of the program too. I mean, that's the main goal, I think, is to get a license and really, have a career on the water.
Yep.
So that's what I hope to achieve someday. Right now, things slowed down a little bit for me because
Yeah.
the baby, but I'll still be working on the Ardell this summer.
Yep.
So looking forward to
And
that.
we like babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great thing for all ages. That's the beautiful thing about it.
And the work experience, you meet every other week.
Yep.
Right? And like Harold said, sometimes you're tearing down engines or whatever. What do you think about the curriculum, the diversity of it? Are you learning things you wouldn't normally learn? Or,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm learning new things that I never thought I would learn.
Yeah.
Things that I didn't expect. And touching on what Harold said about having the students do everything, he's not kidding. I mean, I think my first day working on the Ardell, I sailed her off the dock and sailed her back in. There was no hesitation on giving us the reins and getting the experience. And you'd think it would be a little scary, but it's actually pretty comfortable, and like the guests have a great time.
It's always
on
great.
The boat. Yeah.
Always great having Harold right
Yeah.
next to you too.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
A little scary, but comfortable.
Go ahead.
Well, we haven't heard from Tucker yet.
No,
so-
I was gonna get there.
Yeah, so Tucker, how did you learn about the program, and what got you interested in it?
Well, I caught the boat bug at some point. I was at school for a while, but couldn't get boats out of my mind. It's a sort of affliction that I guess people come down with from time to time.
Yeah.
So I more or less just hung around the dock and hung around where boat work was getting done until Harold picked me up and put me to work.
And what's it like working side by side with Harold?
It's a lot of fun. He's something of a master. Puts us all to shame.
So we were joking about the first year we offered it. One kid went out. I think he did. He was going to buy a schooner, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, we're ruining these kids' lives." but we have another example of that. Tucker, you're an owner operator in your own right? What talk a little bit about that experience. What brought you to that?
Yes, I'm the proud or maybe unfortunate owner of an old wooden friendship sloop by the name of Nomad. Fixing it up under Harold's guidance, and we're going to be sailing this summer, and hopefully once I've got a license and the boat's all straightened out, we'll be doing charters in the harbor. So training up their own competition.
Building the competition.
Was that always the plan, or did that become more of a plan because of this program?
The program, I guess, put me on that path.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
It's not just an old friendship sloop; it's one of the.
It's the oldest working vessel out of Gloucester.
Yeah.
And it is arguably the oldest pilot boat in North America.
Yep.
It
Wow.
It was used on the Connecticut River as a pilot boat.
And how old are you, technically?
I am 21.
Good
Look
for
at that.
you, man.
Huh?
Jeez.
When I-
Cheers to that.
When I was a little older than Tucker, I started in my business, and I had a friendship sloop that I sailed around the harbor taking passengers in, and I did that for a long time. But one woman came to me and she said, there was somebody else who had a boat just like that. His name was Sterling Hayden,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he had a friendship sloop that he sailed around Gloucester and wound up doing circumnavigations with Irving Johnson as a mate.
No pressure, Tucker.
So you never know where that's going to lead you.
Or maybe all the pressure. That's such a great touch point there, because part of the program is to just bring the history and keep that cultural connection to our maritime traditions without having to necessarily go a formal education route. And doing it through the apprenticeship program is such a good way to do it. I should mention, or I should ask Harold to mention, at the end of the program, these kids can go get their captain's license. And what does the program do for them in order to enable that?
Oh, the scholarship program through Maritime Gloucester,
There you go.
and some very generous people who've made it so that when the apprentices go to get their license, the licensure part of it is paid for, and it's a wonderful gift, and it's wonderful to encourage young people. And we can't say how much Amanda has done for the program too. And
yeah.
she brings to it a lot of large boat experience and also a different view of a bigger industry than the small things that we do in Gloucester.
Amanda Madera, as one of the historic, and I will say that, Amanda, one of the historic schooner captains that came coming out of Gloucester, operating bigger vessels. As a touch point, we have a lot of females in this program, and as a touch point and a mentor to them, it's so important to have her as part of the program. In fact, our first captain is now, I believe, on a tall ship in Hawaii, captaining a tall ship. One of the first kids that we graduated. She was on a schooner in the Great Lakes last year. We try to make as many possibilities as possible, right?
It's impressive.
Yeah.
So I want to ask Jess and Tucker, have you had friends or siblings or anyone else that have learned about what you're doing or interested into it? How would you encourage folks to be part of a program like this, and why? I'll start with you, Jess.
Yeah, actually, we have another apprentice in the program that's a friend of mine, Kim McCabe.
Mm-hmm.
And her boyfriend is a friend of my husband. They both are ocean-going tug first mates. They both own friendship sloops that they're restoring, and she heard that I was joining the program, and she was inspired to join too, because she also, like myself, wants to be more comfortable and learn more about how to operate a vessel on the water.
Yeah. How about you, Tucker?
I don't know if I've recruited anyone yet, but
I think once they see the
anyone
Nomad out there moving out and about,
yeah,
it might make some more
hopefully.
friends.
Anyone out there that-
Absolutely. Everyone wants to be friends with someone with their friendship sloop.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it's called
Friends with
friendship
boats.
sloop.
They're the best.
The only other thing I'd just like to highlight about this program, which is just a wonderful thing, is think about it. You're a young person who's interested in maritime history, but you also want to operate a vessel. You come to this program, we pay you to be in this program. We get you jobs during the summer, and we pay for your licensing, and we open up all these other doors for you. And that's all done through the generosity of people who give to the scholarship fund and programs that Maritime Gloucester funding that we raise for the program too, and from just the incredible work from Maritime Heritage Charters to make that possible. So we want to thank you guys for all that and for being here.
Yeah, and Harold, I want to know, so how rewarding is it working with younger people like this and teaching the tools of the trade?
Well, we'll find out. I'm hoping to retire, and this is my retirement plan. Get out of this somehow. Mary Kay and I have other things we want to do.
Yeah.
Love it.
So.
Well, now, but if people want to learn more about this program or get involved, apply for the eventual scholarship, how can they go about doing that?
So to apply for the program, you have to actually contact Harold and write Harold, and he vets all the people that are coming in.
Okay.
And make sure that we understand what their objectives are, what they want to do, and what their commitment is, because you have to make a commitment to the program. You can find out more about it at Maritime Gloucester, or just come on down and ask some questions of any of the apprentices.
And
If you go-
usually I send everybody to Amanda.
Yep. And one of the best ways to find out about the program, shameless plug, is to come and sail on the Ardell in the summer, because the apprentices are helping to operate it, and they're working on it, and you can ask, you're there with them for 2 hours, you can ask them any questions you want about the program.
Yeah, well said. All right, Tucker Smith, Harold Burnham, Jess Evinger, we want to thank you for your time. Congratulations on learning getting your sea legs. It's pretty awesome to see. So
Thank you so much,
Thank
folks.
you.
Thanks
Yeah.
so much for coming.
all right, we'll be back with more from Maritime Gloucester after this. Back once again at Maritime Gloucester for this edition of Cape Ann Today. I'm Kory Curcuru alongside Michael DeCosta. He's the executive director here at Maritime Gloucester. Things are going so well, right?
Things are going great.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great couple segments so far.
Yep.
But this is a great one.
Yeah, here's
This
a
is
big
one
enchilada right here.
Big one right here.
Yeah.
Everyone, not just the guests, right? Also the topic. Can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, the topic, folks, is the 40th Annual Schooner Festival, and joining us here to talk about that is Michael Costello. He is one of the founders of Gloucester Schooner Festival, alongside Jim Lowell, a longtime volunteer. Good morning to you both. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. All right. So where do we start? So, Michael, we got to start with you. The Schooner Festival. How did this all come about? How is it conceptualized?
This guy right here,
Yeah.
Mike Costello. I don't know if it. This is Gloucester. We won't get bogged down in facts. We're going to talk about the lore. How's that?
Yeah.
The legend. All right. Mike Costello, head of the chamber at the time. There was a rendezvous between us and Canada, and schooners came down for the rendezvous, and it worked out really well. It was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be a July 4th weekend, moved to Labor Day, and then they asked. Someone said to Michael, "Hey, that was neat. We should do that again every year." And Mike Costello from the chamber went and might wish he hadn't now, but for many years he might have wished, but he said, "Yeah, that's something we can do." And he's been involved since the first one. It was under his auspices. Mike, I'm sure I got some of that wrong, but
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah,
good.
most of it was right.
But
1985.
1985, birthplace.
The American Schooner Association sent a letter to Dick Silver, who was
yeah.
the mayor at
Yep.
the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Dick didn't know quite what to do with it, so he called me up. He said, "This looks like something that the chamber ought to be involved in." And I said, "I don't know anything about schooners. What are you talking about?" And but eventually we pulled together a little committee, and Cal Morsa helped me out a lot. He was a volunteer at the chamber for years and years and years. And we got the Nova Scotians coming down and the Americans, and I think there were about 40 to 45 schooners in that first year. These are all little guys, sort of no big schooners.
Yeah.
But the response was so incredible. We had a parade of sail that went by the Coast Guard station, and we'd set up for about 200 people, and it was an overflow crowd. People were so excited to see these schooners, and we just decided this is too good to pass up. Let's see if we can put our own thing together. We changed it to Labor Day, because the first one was in the summer. We changed it to Labor Day because we had a commitment from a couple of schooners that they would put aside time over the Labor Day weekend, so rather than in the summer. So
Yeah, that's not getting any easier.
yeah,
No.
Putting aside time.
yeah. So that's how it wound up being the Labor Day weekend, and that first event, I think we had like 7 or 8 large schooners and a few smaller ones. And then we expanded and we did a second day of racing. We started out on Saturday with a whole bunch of other kinds of boats that I don't even remember. Friendship sloops
Yeah.
and catamarans, and we had like 6 or 7 classes that ran on Saturday.
Mike, you've learned a lot. You wouldn't even know this.
That's correct. I have no idea. I don't know one end of boat from the
that
other.
white
but-
boat out there.
Yeah. So and then eventually the Sunday event became so great that we just said let's focus on that, and we let the little guys go, and it's just grown dramatically ever since.
Yes, it
Amazing.
Gotta take a history moment. 1920, right? Gloucester challenges Nova Scotia to a schooner race. Starts this 18-year history of some breaks in between, but of international fisherman's race. Okay, along comes Gloucester Schooner Festival. After a while, this Sunday race kind of becomes a little legacy thing, a little touchstone back to that history, and we've been trying to capitalize on that and make sure that we're keeping that legacy alive for years.
Yeah.
Through this important Sunday
Yeah.
race is the thing.
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
yeah.
it's-
That early race, the Esperanto was
Yeah.
the Gloucester schooner that beat the Canadian schooner, and so we decided that the winner in our race would win the Esperanto Cup, which was owned by Gorton's at the time. So we got Gorton's to pony up to the bar, and they produced a trophy, which they made out of gold, and which after the first year they said, that's the last time we're doing this trophy. We'll do a smaller little thing.
Yep.
But we gave the trophy to the captain of the pilot, who was from Ipswich, and do you remember his name?
Wigglesworth.
John
Is it Wigglesworth?
Wigglesworth.
Wigglesworth. Absolutely.
How could you
How
forget
could I
that?
wiggle out of that one?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And so he got the cup, and then he didn't want to give it back to us, but we eventually got it back.
We did get it back. Actually, we have both of them now. Whenever we give the cup to the award winner now, we're like, and we're taking that.
Yeah, it's like the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
They have to take
exactly.
that back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to.
Well,
Well, I
we
went
have
to Jim.
I
Yeah.
have to talk to Jim.
Yeah.
Jim, you've been a volunteer of Schooner Festival for so many years. You helped keep us going to get to Schooner Festival, and then at Schooner Festival, you have probably one of the best seats in the house.
I do. Well, Laura and I started out. We were producing a program called Legacy Shipbuilders and the Age of the Gloucester Schooners, which was an hour documentary. And we were researching it at the time, and Joe Garland's name popped up, and we had dinner with Joe, and he invited us to come down to the Boulevard for one of the early parade of sails. And we went down and realized he's sitting at a table, he's got a microphone, and he's got a pair of binoculars, and there's no one else around him. There was a fellow who was behind him. I can't remember the guy who had the book, but he's really too far away to be any effect. And the crowd is talking to him, so he's got all this going on, and Laura and I say, we can help this. So the way it evolved was Laura would research, get the information on each of the boats, captains, and at the time, I believe we'd have the captain's meetings, or there was a dinner the night before, and Laura would circulate and introduce herself and get all the information, where are you going next, what your education, all that. So that we had, she put together a book, she called it her cheat sheet, and then I would be right out by the harbor with binoculars, phone, although we didn't have phone, we had a radio, two-way radio.
Two-way radio back then.
And I'd see the boats coming out for the parade of sail, and I would get on the radio and say, okay, next up is the Adventure. And so she'd find the page, put it in front of Joe, and Joe would say, and the Adventure you can see coming, and here's some information, and it became very fluid. And then we of course went to cell phones, and then I was out doing one show, and I couldn't get my wife on the phone, and I asked one of the guys, what's going on? Oh, they took the cell tower down. So, okay, so I won't communicate this time. So I did borrow a phone for that, but it evolved. It became what it is. I think last year was probably the most exciting.
That was awesome.
Yeah, the other thing I do is for Mike is a little promotion.
The last year is always the most exciting.
Well,
Until this year.
Yeah.
we got Chronicle
Yeah.
to come and
Yeah.
do a really nice segment,
was
and we
wonderful.
got my old alma mater, Channel 5, to do some PSAs, which they've been doing, and I asked people. It's not the driving force, but where'd you hear? And it seemed last year just seemed to be.
We had a big Boston audience.
and the
this
parade
year.
of
A lot
sail,
more people
weather,
coming out. Yep.
the whole day.
It was fantastic.
We've been blessed by good weather. I think 1 year in 40 years was because Kansas was a hurricane,
it.
and
That's
that was
it.
it. And then another for COVID.
Well, and the weather's tricky too, Mike, right? Because these vessels are coming from long distances, sometimes day of, sometimes, and so
Wind
it
and-
always plays a part.
Wind and tide. I mean, first of all, it's not a schooner festival if you don't have schooners. That's
true.
So we're always biting. Everyone can say they're coming, but can they? Right? Can they get here in time? And that's one of the bigger things. I gotta ask. It's 40 years, Mike. Can you believe it? And I'm not gonna ask you to say the most important thing, but what's your favorite history or moment of the entire 40-year history?
Oh my goodness,
Gotta ask that.
that's difficult.
Yeah.
I would say one of the most memorable was the year that Ted Kennedy came.
Okay. Yep.
And I mean, he was just wonderful. He interacted with everybody.
These kids were there.
He took some kids out on his boat to go with him during the race. He won the race in his particular class, and he was so personable. It was just an amazing event. So that's one of them. The other is just, as Jim was saying, when you sit on the boulevard and when you watch this thing unfolding in front of you, it's just majestic. It's like oh my God, this is what Gloucester was like 100 years ago.
Step back in time.
And it's,
Look at the old black and whites.
yeah, it's a step back in time, which is just every year. It just my heart leaps again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always blown away by the craftsmanship on all of these vessels. I mean, they're gorgeous, one after the other, and you have a chance to actually go down, walk the docks, board the vessels, learn about each of them and the crew. It's an amazing experience.
We've we talk about on the water experiences, but we really tried to make sure that there's something for everyone. And
Yes.
getting down
The public.
with the new docks that we have for the last 5 years, they're not new anymore, but for the last 5 years, getting people to be able to get on as many boats as possible on the Saturday during Heritage Day.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just such a great experience for people to come down and be able to walk on these vessels and kind of, touch the capstan and see what you see what you
Well, the interaction too with the people, I think one of my favorite times is actually the party afterwards, with the awards ceremony. I am the chowder guy, and I get to sit in the middle, thank you, Mike, and I get both sides.
You volunteered.
But I get to talk to the kids, to the adults, and there's so much enthusiasm. They're so thankful, and they're enjoying what they do, and they get a little bit of the history of the narrative. They understand why. I mean, this whole process started with fishermen racing back to port. That's the race. And they kind of understand it, but it's a party for them.
You guys know this. You said, like you said, you talk to the captains, you talk to the crews, you talk to the people that are coming. It transcends just this weekend. Just this idea of touch back to history. One of the schooner captains at a schooner ASA meeting, stood up and said, "Gloucester Schooner Festival is the best thing that happens for me all year. It is a pilgrimage. When I sail that vessel through the breakwater, I am sailing into history, past and present."
Yeah.
And you can't say it better than that. It's just this
Absolutely.
wonderful thing. We got a couple things that we have to talk about, though, right? 40th year. What do you got in store for us, Mike? This iteration of the Schooner Festival was kind of like gotten its legs. It's every year we try to do something a little bit bigger and different and
Right.
such like this. And we should mention too, Daisy Nell Collinson,
She's
the
the-
force behind this.
Absolutely.
The person, she's a board member of Maritime Gloucester. She's the chairperson of this committee for a lot of its 40 years. And she's been a driving force. We have so many things that people are able to do and come on board and see. What would you like to see for the 40th? What's your idea?
The
Take a note.
thing that really amazes me in the last few years has been the addition of the docks.
Yeah.
Where people can really get onto boats, get up close and personal, because the race itself is happening out at sea. A few people go out in boats, but making the ships accessible to the general public with thousands of people going on board, that's just been a wonderful thing.
That and the
I-
parade of sail are just
Parade of Sail.
And
breathtaking.
Daisy has done the parade of sail.
Yep.
I was talking to
Yep.
Laura about this. 15 years?
Yeah,
I was trying to think when
probably.
Joe
Yeah.
kind of handed it off.
Yeah.
And I think you
No,
would,
we
you would
pulled
sit
it
on the
away from him,
boulevard.
kicking and
Well, I'm not
screaming.
going to say that. I didn't say that. But Daisy has basically taken over that position as well. And her breadth and knowledge of the vessels, the captains, because she's dealt with each one of these captains for years. It's a personal thing,
Yeah.
and so it's made it much better for the public, and it is one of the great public viewing areas.
It's like she doesn't need the cheat sheet.
That's
No.
right.
Because she actually knows.
Now, wait a minute. I'm going to argue with that. 'cause
No,
All right,
no,
whatever.
no.
She knows each vessel.
so true.
And now here's another Harold Burnham
That's right.
boat.
Yeah.
And here's another Harold
Yeah.
Burnham.
Matter of fact,
We could, so many stories around Gloucester Schooner Festival. Again and again, we could talk about it forever. I just want to point out quickly about Maritime Heritage Day, because it's family day, so much fun. Like you say, you can do dock tours, you can get down there. What I've noticed in the last couple of years is, I was doing this sort of thing at Lowell's Boat Shop before, and there was
no relation.
no relation, but there just wasn't enough people doing this to be able to have demonstrations. You could find 3 or 4 old guys to demonstrate something or whatever, but now, like when you come down to Heritage Day, there's like 17 organizations. There's all these young kids that are demonstrating things and doing stuff, and it's just so rewarding to see and think that maybe this festival had something to do with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Sparking that enjoyment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a connection to the history and the culture of Gloucester.
Exactly
See
right.
these things sailing in
Yeah.
full sail
Yeah.
is I use the term Captain's Courageous on steroids. It's in color, and it's just spectacular to see the harbor lit up like that.
You will not. We are the best non-religious festival.
Well, you know, 'cause I was actually going to
That's
say,
so
Mike,
true,
because
right?
like St. Peter's Fiesta is amazing. What's been really cool with Schooner Festival is it's filled this entire Labor Day weekend
Yep.
with events and obviously the breathtaking views and giving people, especially the locals, a chance to learn more about our history and the working waterfront and how this all came to be. So I'll ask both of you to see what the Schooner Fest has become now. What does that mean to each of you?
To me, it's amazing because when we first decided to do it on the Labor Day weekend in Gloucester at that point was one of the sleepiest, tiredest weekends of the year. It was a year when parents were getting ready to take kids back to school. The inns had vacancies. Restaurants were not doing all that well. Over the years, the Schooner Festival weekend has turned Labor Day into the most successful weekend of the year. It turned it around completely.
And it's people like
Absolutely
these two.
completely.
I'm serious.
Oh, yeah.
They represent hundreds of people over the years that have just made this one of the most special weekends in
Well, I
Gloucester,
feel
and we're very proud of
we're
it.
all ambassadors
Exactly.
for Gloucester.
For our history.
And yeah.
Yep.
And
So-
it has transformed into a year-round event.
Oh, yes.
I mean, now it's
planning stage, of
You
course.
talked about the apprentice program and,
Yeah.
and the scholarship program
Yep.
and getting kids on boats. I mean, it's a year-round event.
It so fits being at Maritime Gloucester, and Maritime Gloucester is so pleased with trying to make sure that this stays part of our history and part of our culture forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, guys.
Yeah,
Really
very
appreciate
honestly.
that.
And Jim, if you want to encourage people out there who haven't enjoyed Schooner Festival before, what would you tell those folks to get them to
Oh,
come
well,
to Gloucester?
there's such access now. Get to the boulevard on Sunday morning, and you'll see something that you'll never see in your lifetime. Is the beautiful boats full sail. And the harbor's pretty crowded, but I think they police it well. And that's a great opportunity for anybody to come down and experience this. But again, for me, it's just seeing the new kids, the turnover, it just at our dinners, and being able to talk to them and just see what life is like on a boat.
Yeah. And now if people want to learn more about Gloucester Schooner Festival, how can they go about doing that?
Talk to Mike.
Talk to me.
This might talk to me.
MaritimeGloucester.org is your landing page. If you're coming from out of town and you want to learn more about how to plan your weekend here in Gloucester, go to Discover Gloucester. They got a whole page set up for Schooner Festival. But if you want to know what events are happening, when, what boats are coming,
it's a
all
lot.
of that, it is a lot. There's like 7 pages of our website for Schooner Festival alone. So definitely come on, check that out.
Very cool. Well, Michael Costello, Jim Lowell, thank you both
Thanks
for your
for
time
coming,
and your
guys.
work that you're putting into this. We can't wait for Schooner
Really
Festival.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and we will talk to you. Hopefully, maybe we'll do something during Schooner Festival.
Oh, we might have
Right
to.
down there. Yeah, we'll
Might
tap your
have
shoulders
to.
then too.
Thanks so much.
All right, more from Maritime Gloucester after this. And Cape Ann Today continues live from Maritime Gloucester. I am joined by my co-host for the day, Executive Director Michael DeCoster.
Hey, Kory.
Isn't this going great?
It's going
I say
great.
this after every segment.
Every
now.
segment.
I just
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
We're bringing things back to zero and then
But
we
it
go
is
again.
great because we're talking about Maritime Gloucester.
It's been all things Maritime Gloucester, and in each interview so far, we always harken back to the history one way or another.
Yep.
And we're about to delve in even further with Justin Dimitri. He's a historian here at Maritime Gloucester. What's up, bud? How you doing?
Doing all right. How you
Hey,
guys
Justin,
doing?
how you doing?
I'm excited for this chat, Justin, because well, so now, what are your
We need to find out what we do.
What are your duties here exactly? And then I guess you're going to walk us through if someone were to take a tour of Maritime. Are they doing this side by side with you?
Oh, good question. There are different options, but I am the historian here. So what my main job is to interpret the historic site, and also the story that we tell here, which is the maritime heritage of Gloucester, the harbor. We tie that into the other facets we have here. So anything I do, I also try to dovetail that into our other missions, which is environment and marine science. But we have a really unique place on Gloucester's waterfront. I mean, one of the few places that the general public can access to working waterfront. So if you're a new visitor to Gloucester, this is a prime location to really get your bearings, so to speak, because we are on a site that has been critical to the maintenance of Gloucester's schooner and then later dragger fleet, going all the way back to the 1850s, maybe even earlier. And of course, with that long of a history, you're not going to get the whole story with me. You'll get a little bit more of it if you take a guided tour. But I try to accommodate all the visitors, especially up here in the Gorton's Gallery, to if they're here on just a casual tour, just visiting our aquarium downstairs in the gallery. I chime in, answer questions, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you ask. Now, for a guided tour, it's a little more involved, and we can do a full tour up here in the gallery where we talk about the evolution of the Gloucester fishing schooner, how we transition into modern times, the ancillary trades, because one of the things about this historic property, not only do we have America's oldest working marine railway, but this is the key piece of property to understand that when you have a fleet of hundreds of fishing vessels, you need even larger workforce to maintain them. And so this is really the epicenter of all that. The marine railway, the riggers, the caulkers, the blacksmiths, they were all kind of centrally located down here. So we touch on that up here with some of our displays. We also talk about it more in depth outside, where it makes more sense, where we'd actually walk along the working waterfront in the pier. And that's where visitors get to see the actual railway. We talk about its development. It's a really unique piece of 19th century machinery. And then as we walk down to the pier, I like to bring up the different ancillary trades that took place down here. Some people worked on site, some people lived up the street and came down as contractors. Little do a lot of Gloucester people know that there was a giant factory where we're standing right now that made fish oil and fish glue. It was a competitor to Lee Page's. And we also processed halibut on our wharf back when it was owned by A.W. Dodd. And that pier today, now dedicated to Harriet Webster, is home of 3 of the 4 Gloucester schooner fleet. So down here you can either sail or just check out Isabella, Ardell, and our friends on Adventure.
Amazing, right? So, Justin, I guess, you don't just jump into being a historian for an historic place like this, right? So where did your love for history come, and your love for your hometown?
I didn't plan it this way. Let's just say that. This was plan B. But like a lot of us, that grew up in the Sicilian part of town, my family were fishermen. I had a grandfather that owned an Eastern rig dragger, along with some family friends. I was lucky enough to have young parents and no babysitters, so I was free help. So I often accompanied my dad on the wharfs. In my backyard was the wharfs along the fort. So I didn't know at the time I was really getting an indoctrination into that chapter of the Gloucester fishing industry. And just the way my mind works, I just absorbed it. So later on, growing up, down on the waterfront, being a typical wharf rat, what really connected it for me was probably with Schooner Adventure as a kid. That was my my beginning into the historian part of it, realizing that, you know, wow, people really appreciate what I bring to the table. So over the years, there were many other facets of history and anthropology that I've studied, but I'd always tend to harken back to what I learned here. So as you know, after I finished school and came back to town, there seemed to be a need. And for me, you know, I'm indebted to all the folks that taught me this. I stand on the shoulders of my family, living and past, my great late friend Joe Garland. They're the ones that encouraged me in this path. So as those folks faded away, someone needed to take it up. And this is the best way I know how to pay it back.
You know,
Well said.
Maritime Gloucester is just this multifaceted organization, as we're finding out today, right? There's just so many things that are going on. And when you're sitting in my chair and you're sitting there and say to yourself, okay, well, we need someone to interpret the history, right? It was an easy pick, but it wasn't for the reasons that you think, right? Justin lived and breathed this growing up. You know, I borrow it, I love it, I adore it, I learn about it, right? This was just growing up. This was just learning, right? And what he knows about seafood and respect for the ocean and how to, the processing, the industries that did all this.
The vessels and the differences
just
amongst vessels.
all the different types. He brings that to the table just so, I watch him, and so naturally and effortlessly. But he's perfect for the site because he also has this like side, he runs a seafood blog, and he knows more about seafood than most of us, right? And it's just wonderful to see that marriage on the site of history. He's not just the historian, he's like the eco-historian too, right? He's like this balance between, we'll workshop that title, that's not the one. But he's a balance between these multifaceted parts of Maritime Gloucester, and always contributes in many ways like that.
Well, it also, when you're in this role, you have to cater to the questions and the interests of the visitor. So no two tours are the same. No. It's a conversation, not a lecture. Lectures are later. Yep. But when it comes to the tour, people are interested in Gloucester then, but they're also interested in Gloucester now. And so almost every tour, or even just casual talk with our visitors up here in the gallery, it always leads to the current situation of the Gloucester fishing industry, fishing in general. And so that gives me an outlet to broadcast some good news for a change. We actually have a lot to be proud of in the recovery of our fisheries here that does not make national press. And people leave here knowing that domestic seafood is sustainably caught. Yep. We need to eat more of it. And if the conversation lasts a little longer, you're going to get a recipe, and I'm going to give you a couple suggestions to buy some local seafood.
Hang out as long as you can. Those recipes are gold. So, Justin, the average person comes down. They're not thinking about specific parts of Gloucester history. They bring nothing to the table. What are they going to see when they come and visit? What's the experience like? Where would you point them first?
Well, you can start here inside, and if you do that, the gallery I recommend, because it kind of begins with what made us who we are, which is the Gloucester fishing fleet. And you don't need to be a maritime enthusiast or a sailor or even know anything about commercial fishing to admire the aesthetic beauty of the Gloucester fishing schooner. And sometimes that's just the beginning, and then at least the next question. People are fascinated by the fact that they're standing on what used to be the set of the crow's nest scene from Perfect Storm. So that's just a little bit that gets them interested. Now, when we bring them outside, it's a whole other world if you're not from a working waterfront. I mean, that contraption we have outside, there's not many machines like that. No. So just walking down here, not only are you getting access that most people don't get to the waterfront. Unlike other harbors like New Bedford, most of our waterfront is privately owned. So if we're not from here, or we know that guy is our cousin across the wharf, you can't get down here and access or even see the boats. But down here on our pier, whether you're here for a tour or just a casual visit, we just had a month of dayboat scallopers streaming by. And in the middle of the summer, when the 3 schooners are out sailing, and we have kids running up and down the pier, and the oyster upwellers going, and we'll have boat after boat coming in loaded with pogies, or the tuna boats coming in. And now people are realizing that this isn't just make-believe. This is the real deal. We're actually still doing this.
Right.
It didn't end, and we're not talking in past tense. And again, there's very few places on the harbor where you can do this. It's centrally located, and then branch off from there. This is like a real good starting point to really get to know what Gloucester's really all about.
You're sitting on the end of our pier. You're sitting almost in the center of Gloucester's Inner Harbor. And just from a sensory experience, right? I mean, that's what you see people all the time. They're just sitting out there.
Yeah.
And I can't believe, oh my goodness, look what's all around me. History and future right around me. Yeah.
You know, as we've been saying, I've been down here quite a bit. I used to come down here as a kid, even when the family's boats were being hauled out. But still, on a nice summer day, or even summer evening, when when we're just at the sunset, when Harold's going out for that sunset cruise, or Adventure's coming in, and it's a little bit quiet, but there's still activity, and you got that beautiful light. I mean, it's special. I mean,
Don't tell everyone though, because this
Seriously.
is ours. It's great. No.
It's unbelievable.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, people that come here, they get this beautiful. Gloucester's so beautiful, right? And it's just so wonderful. But Maritime Gloucester has got its own special place in it. One last question, if I could.
Sure.
I know you got some special stuff planned for people for this summer. What are we thinking?
Well, let's see. Well, we have a few things lined up. One of the things I'm excited about is we're going to have a piece of Gloucester history mounted outside. We have the pilot house of the old Phyllis A. She was an old gill netter owned by the Arnold family, who are one of the famous Michigan Bears, the families that brought gill netting to Gloucester. And when she retired in the year 2000, she was the oldest active fishing boat in New England. Now, unfortunately, our friends in their association couldn't keep the boat going. They couldn't restore her. So the very least we can do as an homage to both the families, the type of fishing, and the vessel is to mount the pilot house outside as an interactive exhibit. So I'm really looking forward to that. We have some other things lined up. I believe we're going to be finishing our mug-up room this season, which I'm sure everyone that's listening knows what a mug-up is, but just in case, that's what we call a coffee break, right?
Mug-up.
Take the mug-up off the hook.
Put it on the hook.
All right, fill your mug, rinse it up, rinse it off, put it back on the hook. So there was a room here on down here on the railways that was the mug-up room. And it's been other things over the years, but we've been in the process of slowly but surely bringing it to an exhibit level, but also keeping what was intact in there as well. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna have some real mug-ups in there.
This is my rum mug-up mug. I mean, that thing's heavy.
That's going to hold. So,
Oh, yeah, I like that.
1623, that's more than a ration.
So we also have some other things happening. The build-up to the Gloucester Schooner Festival, we typically do a working waterfront weekend. And this is where we invite some of our skilled friends to come down and show some traditional trades. So one that's always very popular is the blacksmithing demonstration by our friend Aaron. And we also tend to have like net mending demonstrations. We're lining up a few more as well, but you have to stay tuned. But that's something we do on the weekends leading up to the Gloucester Schooner Festival. And of course, that's the crown jewel of summer is down here on the pier.
Yeah.
So much to see, SEA, and do at Maritime Gloucester all the time. Tuesday nights, we have
Schooner Challenge.
Challenge every Tuesday night. Thursday nights, part of Culture Splash with a bunch of our nonprofit friends throughout town and here in Harbortown. And there's always like another exhibit or something around the corner to discover.
That's true.
Thanks to this guy right here.
We're always working.
Wonderful.
Well, in 1623 Studios, we have a great relationship with Maritime Gloucester. I mean, you've hosted events with us in the past, right? For Maritime Heritage Day, we showed the Blackburn timeline. Justin is actually a huge help for me right now in the current timeline I'm working on, which is about the fishing vessel Evelina Goulart, which is housed over at the Essex Shipbuilding Museum. But that history sort of exemplifies, well, it connects all these position pieces from where the schooner, where the fishing industry was and where it went. I guess interwar time, essentially, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. It's a story that kind of gets glossed over in the 400-year span, because the schooners are beautiful. There's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of romanticism. Draggers, a little more handsome than beautiful, I guess. But from my perspective, and maybe anthropologically, they speak more to what makes Gloucester Gloucester and what made Gloucester the city it is today. It's the bridge from the ancient days to what we do now.
To family fishing.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a story that needs to be told.
And within that story, we're touching upon Portuguese and Azorean immigration, the sword fishing fleet, Gloucester's wartime efforts.
Change from corporations to family fishing. You name it. There's
Yeah.
a
How
bunch of
seafood is
things to-
consumed and marketed.
Different types of processing.
right.
It's crazy. So I mean,
You name it.
I love working with you on that stuff, Justin. I'm probably going to email you after this.
No
for
problem.
more help, but we'll probably do a special event for that down
We
here as
should.
well, which
Yes,
is great.
absolutely.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much, Justin.
Yeah.
Really
Any-
appreciate
All right,
anytime.
Justin, we'll be in touch with you soon. Thanks once again.
great. Thanks
Book
for
a
having
tour.
me.
Down, get
Hit
a
up
tour.
Justin and book a
Get
tour
a tour
down here.
from Justin here at Maritime.
Yep, you can book them right online. MaritimeGloucester.org.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll be
Awesome.
back with more from Maritime Gloucester
forward to it.
right after
Awesome.
this.
Thanks.
All right, Cape Ann Today rolls on with another segment here, coming to you from Maritime Gloucester. We're in the beautiful Gordon's Gallery here, upstairs at Maritime Gloucester. Michael DeCosta and Kory with you. Now joining us is Stuart Siegel. He is the executive director of the Schooner Adventure, right down the end of the pier here. How you doing, Stu?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks so much for coming, Stuart. We really appreciated it.
Absolutely.
We just chatted with Justin a little bit about summer programming, what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Can't have summer here at Maritime Gloucester or in Gloucester without recognizing Schooner Adventure as part of our great waterfront tradition. We want to make sure that we're talking about them as part of the Maritime Gloucester experience. So we invited Stuart to come and chat a little bit about what their summer plans are.
Great.
What are your
Yeah,
summer
let her
plans?
We're thrilled.
Showtime, right?
Yeah, sure. Here we go. It's not in our summer plans, but in the back of our mind, we're just ticking towards 2026 because
Yes.
that's the 100th year of our launch, and of course it's the semi-quincentennial.
Breaking news.
Funny word
This is
of the
breaking
United
news,
States, in
yes.
case you didn't know. So we're excited to have that merging. But before then, we should do some stuff too.
Yeah, we have a whole revolution.
So, Stuart, can I even ask you just from the top, for folks outside who maybe don't know what the Schooner Adventure is, just kind of give us a quick A to Z on that?
It's right there. The Schooner Adventure. Where am I looking?
Just on us.
Oh, just
we
just
we
trying to
are
look at
your
you.
eye line. Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. The Schooner Adventure is one of the last dory fishing schooners that was launched out of this area. It was built in Essex, launched in 1926, and it fished out of Gloucester and Boston and was one of the highliners of the fleet, brought in many hundreds of tons of fish, cod, halibut, maybe a little haddock here and there. and was one of the last out there fishing using the traditional methods, while big nets and other more modern fishing methods were coming in. So she stopped fishing in 1953. She was actually born with an engine in her. Some people think that the engine was just put in recent years, but actually she was built in 1926 with an engine. And there were times when they actually took down all the glorious sails, and they had like a little dinky trysail, and they were just like...
Really?
So she fished till 1953, then she was bought and brought to Maine and operated as a pleasure boat, a windjammer for tourists, through 1988. Somewhere in the 60s, Captain Jim Sharp, who runs, can I promote other museums?
go ahead.
This one's far away, so if you're not in Gloucester,
Definitely go and see
you
it.
want to go to the Sail Power and Steam Museum up in Rockland, Maine,
Definitely.
owned by Captain Jim Sharp. He's 90-something years old. He's still kicking. And he owned this boat. He also owned Roseway. He seemed to have owned a lot of the most important historic schooners, and then was sort of like ran them for a while and passed them on to someone else to fix them up. So he sent it back here to the people of Gloucester in 1988. And they worked on it for a long time, and we finally started sailing in 2014. We got a National Historic Landmark status,
Right.
Save America's Treasures status, and back then, and then I got the mayor to do it again last year, was proclaimed the flagship of Gloucester.
And it's available for the public to come and take tours and go out and
It
for
is
sales.
available this summer. We are doing in partnership with Michael here at Maritime Gloucester.
Breaking news, folks.
This is
announcement.
good.
This is
We're
the
doing
announcement.
more dockside touring. We used to do it kind of when we could and on Saturday mornings for Working Waterfront Weekend. Don't miss Working Waterfront Weekend. Now we're doing most Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Those are not in stone. They will evolve depending on what's going on with weather and other special tours and stuff. Starting officially in late June, folks can come and tour the vessel. They can come and do it as part of their entrance to the entire Maritime Gloucester Facility Museum. They can come say hi to us and get a tour. Some days they're just going to be up on the docks, on the deck and the dock. And other days they'll get to go underneath and check out the fish hold and the captain's cabin. That's all been restored meticulously over the past few years, decades.
When a visitor comes to Maritime Gloucester and they learn all this, it's great, right? And they get to touch and see history throughout. But having that experience to be able to get on one of the vessels, whether it's sailing on Ardell or sailing on Adventure, but also just for those that don't want to sail. Not everyone wants to go out on the harbor. Some people get a little, to be able to know that there's a vessel in port here at Maritime Gloucester that you can go and take a deck tour on. Not every day. They have to do their work. They're a working ship, right? But to go out on the deck and experience that history, part of experiential learning, right, is getting in the middle of it. You're gonna get in the middle of it this summer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And on Friday evenings and Sunday mornings, folks can come and actually sail with us.
Yep.
Kids can come out for free with parents. Don't send your kids alone, please. We can't handle that.
Did someone do that last year?
Yeah, like 9 or 10 kids just showed up
I love it.
with knives in their teeth and passion.
And they are the crew this year.
Yeah,
And they are the crew
Spanky,
this year.
Alfalfa,
Yeah, that's
little
right.
Darla, they all showed up.
Do they have like a dog with
Throwing uphill at each other.
Did the target dog come
Yep,
with them?
yep,
Yeah.
it was not good. But folks can sail then. Of course, we're going to be sailing the schooner race. The best day of the year.
Best
I
weekend.
once had someone walk up to me and said, "Now do you understand? I had just gone off my first schooner race."
Yeah.
And I was just, and then we were at the party, and there was like
beaming.
food and things to drink, and everyone was there, and they came and was like, "You see why this is the worst day of the year?" And it's like, no, this is the best day I've
Best
ever
day of
had.
the
Being
year.
out in the vessel for hours and hours with 20-something other schooners. I mean, that's the greatest. And then school groups and other camp groups come by. We have charters and we have a bunch of other things we do. We also have something I want to talk about that we named last year, Fair Winds Initiative, where we bring out folks who maybe wouldn't normally come out to sail on a schooner. Either they live a mile inland and it doesn't cross their mind because they're struggling with just day-to-day stuff, or they don't have the money to buy a ticket, or they just never thought it was for them. So last year with the Gloucester 400 folks, we registered 350 people. Some got rained out, so they didn't all come, but we got over 250 came from Gloucester Housing Association or Authority, from Wellspring. We had people struggling with cancer and their families came out, wounded veterans, and so we had Alzheimer's caregivers, so doing respite sails for folks that are working endlessly to take care of our loved ones and give them a chance to just get out on the water and enjoy themselves. So we're happy to be doing that. We try to make it free of charge as much as possible. So
A very sweet gesture. Yeah.
Great programming. I mean, so, you know, not just a sailing vessel, not just ticketed, right? But also an educational platform.
Right.
And marrying that in with the messaging for the visitor, for the tourist. You know, you got your own separate story to tell, obviously, but having that be part of the Maritime Gloucester experience, and just when people come here from, you know, Indiana or whatever, they don't care if it's Schooner Adventure or if it's Maritime Gloucester. They just want to have that experience.
No, they're soaking in Gloucester, yeah.
This affords that wonderful experience. But you're going to interpret. I mean, we're developing more kind of public education programs during the deck tours. It's not just going to be walking around. You're going to learn a little bit about the history and the importance of that vessel.
to me, that's the best. That's the best education there is. You know, we sometimes when we bring out groups, we do little activities and science stuff. But to me, coming out and just getting a feel, having the fishing schooner there, having dories on the pier and on the deck, having the railway, having the ice house, and having everything put together, and then looking, and there's the modern fishing boats doing their thing. I mean, that's where you get the story. If this vessel was sitting on a pier surrounded by cotton candy machines or whatever, like, it wouldn't tell the same story.
Right.
Although
No, I like that.
cotton candy. I've been saying for years, one cotton candy
Just
machine.
something,
That's how
right?
we
Maybe
get
ice
in here.
cream or something.
Can I pitch our Girls on Adventure program?
Please do. That's what we want to hear about.
So Applied Materials is a big employer in town. They make the things that make the things that make our microchips. It's pretty high tech stuff, and they have a foundation, and they've been funding since last year a program, part of their Generation Girl initiative, to get women out and interested and involved in STEM type initiatives and programs. And so we're running something called Girls on Adventure, where we bring young women in middle school out to meet different women working in the maritime professions. So I think they met Kelsey last year. They definitely they saw Amanda. They sailed with Krista. They went out to the shipbuilding museum. We take them to GMGI to meet scientists. We talk about lady lighthouse keepers. You know, really they met Captain Michelle Bankowitz from Wikituna, the first all-female crew. So they got to hang out on the boat with her and her first mate Leah. And then they get to learn how to sail the Adventure with our captain, Krista Miller-Shelley, and our first mate, Natalie.
Cool.
It's pretty awesome, because we've heard from all these programs today how much the youth is being served.
Yep.
It's pretty special.
Yeah. You know, again, with great partners like Adventure, great programming comes out of it. I just kind of flash back, right? 24 years ago, this idea of Maritime Gloucester and taking over this pier and what's it going to be. And to see now, you know, almost 25 years, next year's our 25th anniversary, so almost 25 years later, to see that it's this platform for great organizations like them and Mass Oyster Project and Gloucester Gig Rowers and Traditional Small Craft Association, and we support the high school sailing team, and we support the Gloucester Museum School, and you know, I mean, we're trying to find these ways to make these connections. We do all of this science programming with things like GMGI, and with used to do a little bit more with Seaside Sustainability. That's coming back this year. Ocean Alliance has been a great project with us. The community here in Gloucester, right, is just a fantastic platform for kids, and we're so proud to be part of that. You know, part of that organization.
Well, I think a good question for both of you is, like, so your paths to Gloucester and your love for the ocean and the vessels and all, like, how did that all manifest? So let's start with you, Stuart.
Go ahead.
It all started on July 4th, thousands of years ago. Michael and I share a birthday.
We do. We're both born on the 4th of July.
He's also a twin, and his mother has the same birthdays, and my grandfather has the same birthday, so we may be related.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is weird. So we're locked in this eternal tension of
yes, siblings.
I am not a boat or water person. Even I grew up in Florida. I liked the beach, and my mom's boyfriend had a boat. We would go out there on my birthday and watch the fireworks. But I've lived in the desert in Israel. I just lived in the desert in Arizona, and when I got to town and was looking for what I wanted to sink my teeth into, I found this job listing for Schooner Adventure, and I noticed in all the things they were looking for, they weren't looking for a sailor, someone that knows tons of stuff about boats, and I think underlying they thought, we all know stuff about boats, we need someone to run the organization. It's like, someone that's ignorant about boats and can run an organization?
We'll take it.
Hand goes up.
Maybe even both of those I qualify. So it's been great. Sometimes it's tricky because, you know, there's so many people around me that have had a lifetime living on boats, and sometimes they're speaking a foreign language to me. But it's been great. I mean, I feel like I've learned a ton for someone that was, you know, super green hands. That means I'm
You're doing good.
an amateur.
That's really
yeah.
good.
2 years ago, I think I've learned a lot. I have no idea how to sail a boat, but you know, I can pass. I can hang out in conversations, and it's been awesome to work for this, because to me, in all the work I feel like I've done, especially my last job in Arizona, when you work whatever the platform is, working for a city to help it bring more tourism in, to help its own cultural heritage be more out there to its residents as well. So if I could jump topics before we go back to Michael, I just want to say, well, Michael was talking about, you know, the sort of holistic nature, and then because he's Michael and he's on every committee and every event in town, it's like, oh, was Michael there? And he's like, yeah, I don't know where he gets the time. And because Maritime Gloucester is this cultural linchpin, so just, you know, one example, I was on a sail with my kids on Adventure, and it was a Thursday, Culture Splash, so Michael's heavily involved in Culture Splash in the Harbor Town District. And we got off, we're like, all right, what are we going to get dinner? These kids are tired. We need to get some food and get them home. And as we walked out, there was the Thursday night concert on the hill under the Fitzhenry Lane building, which is where my office is.
Yeah.
And you know, 4 hours later, we went home, and the kids had dinner and danced with their friends till I had passed out. And like, you know, it was, and that's all connected with
Just
the
a
Harbor Loop,
great experience.
Maritime Gloucester,
Life here, yeah.
Michael connecting all those different elements.
The you know, Stuart's been here for 2 years, something like
yeah.
ish. You know, the ability for the two organizations to get to this point and grow together and work together, no small part to leadership of Stuart and his board, talking with our board, and we're just trying to make sure that this experience for people and this working together, this summer's a good kickoff for that. It's really going to be a good summer, and we're hoping that people can recognize that and see that when they come out, supporting both organizations. Yeah.
And to
was
make
there
it
a
a good
question
summer,
for me?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
To
no,
make
go
it a
ahead.
good summer, come volunteer with Maritime Gloucester and Schooner Adventure, because we want
Schooner
people
Adventure.
who want
We
to
need-
come
yeah.
and
We
talk with the public.
Why don't we, let's do a quick shout out
should
for the
talk about
volunteers
that.
for both organizations too, because it's a lot.
Wouldn't exist.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
would not exist without
Would
the
not,
volunteers.
100%.
It's incredible.
And still needed. You know, your organization, generational volunteers, some of them have been there doing this for like 20, 30 years, right? Our organization, we're seeing a turnover, right? Some of the older people that have been helping us and supporting us for years, maybe not doing it anymore.
Because we heard Kelsey Bradford
Right.
was a student here,
Exactly.
who then now is, you know.
And so we're having a volunteer open house night on Monday, and encourage people to come down and just check out the opportunities, whether it's us or maybe being docent, you know, for Schooner Adventure when you're sitting at the top of the pier during those docent hours. We need people to come and help out, and we'd be happy to point people in the direction if they're not interested in fish or if they're not interested in, you know, museum work. We got plenty for people to do, and plenty of partners.
So Stuart, if people want to learn more about Schooner Adventure, how can they go about doing that?
They can go to schooner-adventure.org, or they can email me at Stuart with a U at schooner-adventure.org.
There you go.
There you have it. All right, Stuart Siegel, the executive director of Schooner Adventure.
Thank you.
Tyler,
Thanks
we
so
want to
much.
wap
Thanks for
things up, or
watching.
do we want to wrap things up
You can
now?
wrap that on.
Yeah, thanks for your time, bud, as always.
You
You can still stick around. You can still stick
I'm staying
around.
here, okay.
Stay right there.
All right, so that is it for this edition of Cape Ann today. We want to thank everybody here at Maritime Gloucester for the house hospitality. Michael, that was awesome
Thank
once
you
again.
so much for coming. Well, thanks 1623 and the whole cast and crew did such a great job of setting this up today. As I hit a microphone, sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kory, for coming and helping us with this. I hope I did Heather Atwell proud in her position today. I'm not coming for her job at all. This is tough. Good job. Thanks so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. All right, we want to thank today's guests, Kelsey Bradford, Harold Burnham, Jess Ebinger, Tucker Smith, Mike Costello, Jim Lowell, Justin Dimitri, and Stuart Siegel. And we have to thank our crew, of course, production coordinator Tyler Harinson, IT and video coordinator Tom Manning, social media coordinator Bridie O'Connell, senior operations coordinator Emily Games, floor manager Alana Horn, executive director Eric Archer. Our next shows now, hold on, are going to be during St. Peter's Fiesta. We're going to be doing live coverage of the entire Fiesta sporting events, the same boat races and the Greasy Pull. We're doing that in concert with Streamography, Bridge Cape Ann, and Live Now from Fox, broadcasting to more than 250,000 people around the U.S. We're doing all 3 days of coverage.
So many questions.
Yeah, so do you're not the only
We
one.
have so many questions.
You're not the
Can
only
we do
one.
a pre-show where I'm interviewing you and finding out all those stuff?
If
so
I'm
people-
still with
people
us,
want
yeah.
to know, Kory.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot happening there. And then we're also going to be covering the Horribles Parade as well
awesome.
on July 3rd. So a big summer of events. Learn more about Schooner Adventure. Definitely
Awesome.
learn more about Maritime Gloucester. Thanks once again for your time. And we will see you next time on Cape Ann Today.
Thanks, you.